In this session, we will discuss about the normalization procedure. The basics that were required to understand normalization is you require to understand what is the functional dependency, that is FD, what is the closure, and how to find the candidate key of a given relation. So if you are well versed with the basics, the normalization procedure will be very simple for you. So what is this normalization? We look at the table over here. In this particular table, we have all the information about the student stored in just one single table. Now this table stores information about the student ID, the name of the student, the age of the student. Along with this, the branch information is also stuffed in the same table. That is the branch code, branch name, and the HOD name is there in this table. Now if you look carefully at this particular table, there's a lot of redundant information which is actually not required, is still stored in this table. So when we apply normalization, so basically the redundant information is about the branch code, the branch name, and the HOD name is redundant in this table with respect to each and every student. So when we apply the normalization procedure or the normalization process to a table, basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to eliminate this redundant information. We cannot eliminate this redundant data, but we can reduce the redundant information. So this is what we are going to do in the normalization process. Now, if the information is stored in the table in this particular manner, you are stuffing all the data, all the attributes in one table, then this type of table will suffer from something called as insertion, updation, and deletion anomaly. So what is this insertion, deletion, and modification or updation anomaly? We'll look at it one by one. So now, in the previous table, you can see that there were only 6 tuples. Now the 6 tuples gave you information about the CS branch, that is computer science branch, electronics and communication branch, mechanical engineering. And the information about the civil branch was not mentioned anywhere until and unless a student registered for this particular course. When the student registered for this particular course, that is civil, only then information about the civil branch is visible. That is, information about the branch code is visible, branch name is visible, and the HOD name is also visible. Now if you do such type of design, if the table is designed in such a way, then obviously it is a wrong or a bad design. So basically what it means is you require a student to enroll for this particular branch to know the information of a branch, or to know that there's one more branch exists in the college. So such type of problems are called as insertion anomaly. So only when you do an insertion, then the information is available, else the information is not available. This is about your insertion anomaly. Now what is deletion anomaly? Look at tuple number 6. Okay, so student ID is 6, name is F, age is 19, branch code 103, branch name is ME, mechanical engineering, and HOD name is KLM. Now in this case, if you delete, or let's say the student wants to leave the college, so obviously there's no point in storing information about this particular student. So if we delete information about the student, along with the student, the branch information is also lost, assuming that there's only one student for this particular course. So if we delete this particular information, you see that information about the mechanical branch is also lost forever. So such type of problems are called as deletion anomaly. Coming to the third type of problem is, it is updation or modification anomaly. Now let's say there's a new HOD for the computer science branch, wherein the name of the HOD is to be updated from XYZ to PPP. Now you can see that XYZ appears in many places in the table. I have highlighted only the first 3 tuples. So if you want to update, you have to update all the tuples. All the tuples, wherever XYZ is appearing, that name has to be updated by PPP. Now this is only a snapshot of a database, assuming there are lex and multiple tuples, lex and lex of tuples in the table. So you have to update each and every tuple. Pick up the student from computer branch, update Deshut name. Pick up the second tuple with student ID to update it. Pick up the third tuple, update it. And so many you have to update lakhs and lakhs of entries, which is very difficult. There's a high chance that because of human error, you might skip some of the entries. You might leave some of the entries as XYZ, and you might have such type of a scenario wherein you have updated only the second tuple over here. Tuple 1 and tuple 3 is left unattended. Now if this is the state, then your database will suffer from data inconsistency. We have already seen what is this data inconsistency in Unit 1. And one more big problem your database will suffer from is wastage of large memory space, because you are storing irrelevant and unwanted data every now and then. So when we apply the normalization procedure, or when we do a normalization for a table, basically we are trying to reduce the redundant information or redundant data that is stored in the table. Now, how do you proceed with the normalization process? Or what is this normalization? So normalization is the process of eliminating redundancy using the concept of functional dependencies. Now, when we apply normalization, the normalization can be applied in certain different phases. So you apply the first normalization, you apply the second normalization, third normalization, followed by Boyce-Codd normal form, and there's fourth normal form, fifth normal form, but we will be discussing only up to Boyce-Codd normal form. In this video, I will be discussing only about the first normal form, the second normal form, and the third normal form. Information about Boyce-Codd normal form will be in my next video. We'll discuss about BCNF in the next video. So how do you proceed with this normalization? It is not like you pick up any one type of normalization and you apply, and you say I have applied third normalization, or I have applied second normalization, or I have applied first normalization. So basically when you apply normalization, it is a series of steps. So you have to apply the first normalization. After the first normalization, then you apply the second normalization. Only then you can apply the third normalization, followed by your Boyce-Codd normal form. So you cannot randomly jump from first normal to third normal or second normal to Boyce-Codd normal. So you have to follow the procedure: first normal form, then second normal form, and then third normal form. Now what is this first normalization? A relation is said to be in first normal form if domains of each attribute contains atomic values. Now what is this atomic values? Atomic values are those values wherein the values are not divisible further. For example, a name of a student. If you store the full name of the student as one attribute, then the value is not atomic, or atomicity does not exist in your table. So what we do is we break this attribute into three different attributes, that is first name, middle name, and last name, and only then we can say that the value is atomic. We'll see some example of first normal form. Now over here we have a table which stores information about the student and the course they have opted for. So we have roll number of the student, we have name of the student, and we have course name the student has opted for. Now in this case, the student has opted for computer networks and operating system. In this case, Suraj has opted for DBMS and computer organization. Now over here the value is not atomic, neither here the value is atomic. So what we do is we try to have an atomic value in each cell. So what we say, or what we do is we get this table into the first normal form. So 101 has, that is Raj, has opted for computer networks and has opted for operating system. 102, that is Suresh, has opted for DBMS and computer organization. So this values are now atomic over here. Now this values cannot be further divided because computer network is one subject, OS is one subject, DBMS is one subject, computer organization is one subject. Now when you design your tables, if your ER diagram is proper, then your relational model will be proper. And if your relational model is proper, then when you derive the tables from your when you get your tables, the tables will be automatically in the first normal form. If you remember, we took care of the multi-valued attributes. If there were multi-valued attributes, we did not put all the multi-valued attributes in one particular cell. What we did was we designed a new table to take care of the multi-valued attributes. So I again repeat, if your ER is proper, then your relational model also will be proper. So by default, if you will get your tables in the first normal form. Here I have another table wherein I am storing information about employees, the name of the employee, the salary, department number, and the department name. So if you look at the name of the employees, it is not atomic. Like the first employee, that is Shiv Goyal, the name of the employee is stored as one name. So what we do is we try to make it as atomic, and we store the name as first name and last name. Now even after applying the first normalization, I can say after applying the first normal form, I can say that the data is atomic, but the data still continues to be redundant. You can see that accounts is repeating n number of times, marketing is repeating n number of times, and so on the other department name. So even after following the normalization procedure, after applying the first normal form, we are sure that the data in the table is atomic. To still reduce the redundant data, what we do is we apply second normal form and we apply your third normalization. Now moving on to second normal form. So what is this second normal form? A relation is said to be in the second normal form if it is in first normal form. So the first part says that your relation must be in first normal form. So this is your first part of it. The second part of the definition says that all non-prime attributes must be functionally dependent upon the prime attributes. The second part of the table is something different. So there are two conditions to it. First condition is it should be in first normal form, and the second condition says that all non-prime attributes must be dependent upon the prime attribute. Now what does this thing mean? We will see with the help of an example. Now here we have a relation R with the attributes A, B, C, D, and some FDs are given to you, that is A, B determines D and B determines C. Now your first job is to find the candidate key. Now how do you find the candidate key is you design the edge diagram. So we have A, B, C and D. So A, B determines D and B determines C. So A and B is not having an incoming edge, so A and B becomes a essential attributes. So as of now I conclude that A and B is my candidate key, because when I calculate the closure on A and B, I get the entire relation A, B, C and D. So I will not go into the details of finding the closure or finding the candidate key. So you can have a look at the previous videos how to find the candidate key. So I conclude in this case that AB is the candidate key. Now if you look at the relation and the FDs, you can see that since this is the only candidate key, so this will be my primary key. So we have A, B, C and D, and this is my primary key, and based on this you are able to search for D, and based on B you are able to search for C. Now the attributes in the candidate key are called as prime attributes, and the attributes apart from the candidate key are called as non-prime attributes. So in this case we have A and B which is acting as the prime attribute, and C and D in this case which is acting as the non-prime attribute. Now according to second normal form there should be no partial dependency. Now what is this partial dependency? If you look at this relation, D is totally dependent upon the candidate key. That means to search D you require the entire candidate key, but to search C only B is sufficient. That means only part of the candidate key is sufficient. Now, if such type of dependency exists, then it is called as partial dependency, because a non-prime attribute partially depends upon a prime attribute and not the entire candidate key. Now, if such type of dependencies are there, then you are supposed to eliminate the partial dependencies. So now how do we eliminate this partial dependency? We know that AB is the candidate key. So we, from this relation R, we get two new relations. We get relation R1 and we get relation R2. In relation R1 we have A, B and D, and AB is the key over here and D is totally dependent upon A and B. And in the new relation we have B and C, wherein B will be the primary key and C is totally dependent upon your attribute B. So now here there is no partial dependency. So this is what we do in your second normalization. So basically, when you want to apply second normalization, your table must be in first normal form and you require your table is free from partial dependency. We will see some examples. Here we have an example wherein this example will also suffering from insertion, updation and deletion anomaly. Now how is it so? Now let's say that Jack wants to, we are deleting information about Jack. Now when we are deleting information about Jack, information about the game hockey is also deleted. So we delete information about a particular student, other information is also lost. So this particular table suffers from deletion anomaly. It is also suffering from insertion anomaly, because if we want to add a new game, let's say in this case we want to add a basketball, a new game, that is basketball. So obviously you can add a new tuple over here, but what about the roll number of the student? What about the name of the student? What about the grade? You are keeping it as null or not null. So this is again a insertion anomaly over here. And if it is suffering from these two anomalies, it is very obvious that it is suffering from the updation anomaly also. So suppose you want to update the fee of a student. Okay, you want to update fee of a student. Maybe you want to update the fee of cricket. From 200 you want to make it 300. So you have to update all the tuples wherever cricket is mentioned. So basically this particular table also suffers from updation anomaly. Now have a look at the structure of the table. The structure says that if you know the roll number and the game, you will be able to search for the name of the student, the fee of the game and the grade that the student has achieved by playing that game. Now if you look technically or logically, if you know the roll number of the student, then you know the name of the student. And based upon the roll number, you will also get to know the grade of the student. That means fee is not dependent upon the roll number. Fee is dependent upon the game. That means fee is a non-prime attribute. In this case, name, fee and the grade are non-prime attribute. Name and grade are dependent on roll number. Fee is dependent on the game. That means very obvious in this table partial dependency exists. So what we require to do is we require to eliminate this partial dependency. So what we do is now we create a new relation, roll number, name. So if you know the roll number, you know the name of the student. If you know the game name, you know the fee of the game. Now what about the grade? So the grade obviously will come in this particular table. So if you know the roll number, name and grade, you will be able to search. That means these two attributes, name and the grade, are totally dependent upon the roll number. That is, these non-prime attributes are totally dependent upon the candidate key or the prime attribute. Similarly, with respect to this table, fee is totally dependent upon the game. So both these tables, when we apply the second normalization, the partial dependency is eliminated from this table. So this is how we work with second normalization. We move to the third topic, that is third normal form. Now what is this third normal form? A relation is supposed to be in third normal form if it is in second normal form. So the first requirement is your table must be in second normal form. That means your table must be free from partial dependency. And the next part of the definition, it says that, and non-prime attributes be non-transitively dependent upon the prime attribute. So non-prime attributes be non-transitively dependent upon the prime attribute. Now what does this thing mean? So the condition required for the third normal form is, the first condition is your table must be in the second normal form, and second condition is that no transitive dependency exists. You already know what is transitive dependency. We have discussed about transitive dependency when we spoke about the Armstrong axioms. Now, a functional dependency from alpha to beta is called transitive if alpha and beta are non-prime. Now what is this? We will see with the help of an example. So the transitive dependency based upon non-prime attributes. We have a table over here. Similarly, this particular table also suffers from insertion, updation and deletion anomaly. So we have, so now in this case, if we delete information about Gaurav, then information about hostel H2 will be lost. So this particular table suffers from deletion anomaly. Similarly, if we want to add information about new hostel in this table, then if a student is not associated to this new hostel, then the roll number and the name of the student will be left blank. So again, this table suffers from insertion anomaly. And obviously, if it is suffering from insertion anomaly, it will be suffering from your modification or updation anomaly. So similarly, when you want to update the name of the hostel, so you have to update all the tuples wherever you want to update a name of the particular hostel. So basically, in this case also, it is suffering from insertion, updation and deletion anomaly. Now, according to this particular table, roll number is the prime attribute. So we have roll number as the prime attribute. So if roll number is the prime attribute, name, semester and the hostel are non-prime. So name is non-prime, semester is non-prime and hostel is also non-prime. So what I've said is, when we are applying the third normalization, we try to eliminate transitive dependency. And that too, when I talk about transitive dependency with respect to third normal form, it is we are dealing with the non-prime attributes. So if you know the roll number, you know the name of the student. If you know the roll number, you know the semester of the student. If you know the roll number, you know the hostel of the student. Very obvious. But if you look carefully, the hostel name is dependent upon the semester. So the name of the hostel is based upon the semester. If it is H1, it means semester 1. H2 means semester 2. H4 means semester 4. And H3 means semester 3. That means to know the name of the hostel, just the semester name is sufficient. So that means there is some transitivity over here. That means the transitivity is something like this. If you know the roll number, you know the semester. And if you know the semester, you know the hostel. So there is a transitivity dependency in this relation based upon the non-prime attribute. So if you say semester determines hostel, where semester is non-prime and hostel is also non-prime attribute. So if such type of transitivity dependency exists, then you have to eliminate this type of transitivity dependency in your third normal form. So now we'll have two new relations which will have roll number, name and the semester of the student in one relation, and in the second relation we'll have semester and the hostel in the second table. So we have these two tables with roll number, which is the prime attribute, and the non-prime attribute is name and the semester. So if you look at this particular table, it is in 1NF atomic values, it is in 2NF because there is no partial dependency, and it is in 3NF because there is no transitive dependency over here. Obviously with the second table also, it is in 1NF, it is in 2NF, and it is in 3NF also. We'll look at another example of 3NF. Okay, so we have a table over here R with attributes A, B, and C. We have functional dependency, A determines B and A determines C. So what is the first thing what we do is we determine the closure. So when we find the closure on this, we get A to be the candidate key. So you see that since A is the candidate key, A determines B and B determines C, there is transitivity dependency between the non-prime attributes, that is B and C. So what we do is we have a look at the table. These are the tuples. We have all unique values in the column A and some repeated values in B and C. So this was a original table with this information. So when we eliminate the transitive dependency, we have a new relation wherein we'll have A and B in one relation. Let's say this relation is R1 and the second relation is R2. So basically what we have done over here, we have eliminated the transitive dependency. So B is dependent upon your A and C is dependent upon your attribute B. So here the primary key is A and here the primary key is B. So if you look carefully, in this table we have information about A and information about B, but if you look at attribute C was repeated here twice, was repeating here and was repeating over here. So this redundancy after applying the third NF has been reduced to only 3. So this is how your third normalization works. So if you look at this particular table, it is in 1NF, it is in 2NF, and it is also in 3NF. Similarly with respect to this particular table also the same concept. So this is how and this is why the normalization is applied. So to avoid insertion anomaly, to avoid deletion anomaly, to avoid updation anomaly, and to reduce the redundant data.